Commissioner Frank Malone, who is doing outstanding work within our community, and a dear brother that I've been able to engage and talk with, and greatly impressed with the work that he's done and he's continuing to do, and honored to have him on this evening. As he expressed, he will share with us some of the work that he's doing, and I ask Commissioner Malone that you will come forth in your own way and present as you would, God would have you present to us this evening. And thank you for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you, Reverend Bowie. I'd like to give honor to the Black Women for Positive Change, Dr. Stephanie Myers. I need to give a shout out to Miss Jackie Bone, who's poised to give a conference with 500 young men talking about domestic peace. How do you take domestic violence and turn it to domestic peace? I want to give a shout out to my top soldier, Mr. Chris Thomas, who is all over their community doing man the block in the schools, in the community, making things happen, leading by example. Reverend Bowie, it's an extreme pleasure to share the 5 root causes of black male violence and some of the solutions. But I'm going to come from a different way tonight, a way that God has directed me to. I have a radio station in D.C. called the Fathers Empowerment Hour. And on that show also is a guy named Dr. Cross, who does what's called Blackology. And I'm sure none of you all have probably even heard of it, but I'm going to start out because when I was reading Dr. Amos Wilson on black crime, it all goes back to Africa, what's wrong with us, and how we have to fix it. So let me just start out and say, if I speak in a language of other cultures and assimilate to their ways, but have not cultural affirmation, I'm a copycat, a second-class citizen. If I have their theories, philosophies, and beliefs, and quote all their great men, and have studied all their sciences so as to perpetuate their culture, but have not a sense of my own cultural solidarity, I am walking the path of least existence. If I throw away all my heritage and hold up the heritage of other cultures, but have not any consciousness of my own, I gain nothing. Blackology is patient and kind. It is not jealous or boastful. It is not ashamed of its history. It is productive and creative. It does not rejoice in self-hatred, and it rejoices in unity. It bears all its people, believes in all its people. It has hope for the future, and it knows what the people need and what they want. It endures all struggles. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the science of Blackology, which leads right into what I wanted to cover tonight on reactionary masculinity syndrome. We've been doing this work for about 10 years. Our work started in the city of Alexandria, right in the ghetto, in the middle of a drug-infested neighborhood where you wouldn't come out at night because of the shooting and the robberies. And God had put us there to work with those families. These were the families of the Titans. You remember the movie, Remember the Titans? Yeah. These are those families we worked with but it was only the children. The men were absent pretty much from the whole structure. And I was able to run an organization called the Family Resource Learning Center. And there, we work with the young children. And I was not a fatherhood leader then, but I noticed that these children didn't have fathers. And so by us showing them love and care and taking time with them, they just could not wait to get back into that Family Resource Learning Center. And what happened is how we are here today. They went and took their standard of learning exams, and they wanted to please us so much. We were the surrogate fathers. They scored the highest on their standard of learning exams than any other group in the city of Alexandria. Just to run it a little bit forward, we got money from Harris Teeter, McDonald's, the governor. They said, well, how did y'all do that? Fatherhood. Fatherhood. You can never leave the father out of the equation. It's just like when God started the world, it was Adam and Eve. So that started the Northern Virginia Regional Fatherhood Coalition, which soon I got called to D.C., and there was a conference there for the 100 fathers. And that is how our organization began. Since then, we have transformed the lives of young men that you might think are troublemakers, and which is why we want to see how we can de-escalate, change, and transform the lives of a new generation of young men. And here's how it needs to be done. Some of you all got the graphic that I sent out. On that graphic, it has 5 major points: manhood, respect, power, fatherhood, and racial oppression. Let's talk about how this transformation has to take place. Now, I want to put a pin on it to say we currently operated at Woodson High School in Ward 5, where they have a lot of shootings. Then we worked at Phelps High School. Then we currently are working at Ballou High School. All of these schools are located in areas where there's a high murder rate, there's a lot of behavioral problems, but yet and still, when the fathers and the strong men come into that building, we find respect and love. Here's our secret: love, connection, engagement, enlightenment brings empowerment. But if you don't love them, you don't belong in there. So let's get into reactionary masculinity syndrome. That is a process that was thought of by Dr. Amos N. Wilson, noted psychologist. He wrote a book called The Psychodynamics of Black Self-Annihilation in Service of White Domination. In other words, why our young men do things that are stupid, that serve somebody else, but not themselves, and wind up either in jail, dead, or maimed. But we can reverse this process if we understand with a proper diagnosis. Just like these people with COVID-19, they can't be treated until a proper diagnosis has been rendered. The same thing for our young men of color. Someone has to diagnose what is wrong with a person who's hurt and wants to hurt somebody else. How do you heal that individual? Well, according to Dr. Amos, understanding the thought processes of young black males begins with a look at this phenomenon, but it also understands how they have a lack of self-love, a need for material power, a lack of respect, a lack of the presence of an affirming father in their life. Ultimately, there's a danger of incarceration, increasing violent deaths posed by racial oppression and institutional bias. So reactionary masculinity syndrome is a black male's futile attempt to assert his manhood and to regain some kind of power and respect by actively or passively rebelling against racial oppression and white male domination, but in a way that is harmful to himself, his family, and his community, yet beneficial to the white male oppressor. Jail is a money business. The American educational system has failed. Many have turned from the Christian way because they see a European representing a black Jesus. That should never be, but people don't have their history in order. According to Dr. Wilson, a primary examination of research shows this. If a young man has no idea about manhood, he's going to act the way that the hood has told him to. We teach, on the other hand, that a man, and Chris Thomas can tell you, our young men will tell you what a man is. He is responsible, respectful, and reasonable. But this is taught by men who are trained as certified master trainers who have the patience, the delivery, and the vision, and the commitment to be able to have to work with these young men. With regards to respect, self-annihilation has been a problem for our young men because they have no sense of self-esteem. Why is that? That's because everything out there pretty much has emasculated them. And when you emasculate something, when you emasculate a man, you take away his ability to be a man. And so we have to look at what things we can do to correct the damage that has been done over the years that has left our young men in a situation where they'd rather be a good criminal than a great person. Emasculated males, under such circumstances, unwittingly become allies and vehicles of genocide and suicide in our community, thwarting its ability instead of defending it. This is done because when a young man has no idea who he is, no respect for women or anyone else, then anyone is in danger, and everyone is in danger. But it can be corrected when strong men can engage them, can connect with them, can show them love, and redirect their energy. But when a community perceives that impending danger due to oppression, it relies upon its males traditionally. So you see, this is an overall plan. When you come to attack a people, you don't go after the women, you go after the men. You go after the males. You go after the fathers. And so that is what has happened in America to our young men. Now, while there are some that are doing a great job, males bonding together with their female counterparts to form a bond that forms a viable backbone is what we're working towards. The dependence, the structure, the social coherence, the continuity, and the adaptability must be taught by example. It's not something you can teach by word of mouth. The temperament of the biological cultural endowment is most likely to take up arms psychologically and materially. The essence of black-on-black criminal is self-hatred or self-alienation. And this is a learned behavior. When you go to the movies, you're ugly, hateful, you're going to be murdered in that movie, you're shown as inherently inferior. And so these unintentional and intentional bias help to make that criminal even stronger because he can't find a way forward. But we have to understand that the fatherhood movement and men stepping in to lead by example and strong women have been able to make a change. At Ballou High School in D.C., we have a group of about 23 young men who, I would say, have made a transformation in their lives. Many of them don't have fathers, but as surrogate fathers, we have demonstrated for them by example what a man should say, what a man should do, and how a man should act. And this, we're saying, is needed nationwide. And so, respect has to be something that is taught. Now, power is another failure in the system. When I think about power, I think about where we are right now with this virus, because this virus is really a plague. When you look at the children of Israel, that was a plague. It was during the same time that we're celebrating now. And when they went before Pharaoh, God put the destroyer on them. And anybody that didn't put the lamb over their household, the next day they were dead. The firstborn were dead. And this is the same destroyer. But why? The children of Israel, they were wicked. They were idolaters. They did not believe in what it was that was important, and that was God. We as men of God who serve in this capacity, we don't shop our religion. We lead by example. They ask us, because we're Muslim, we're Christian, we're different religions, but we're faithful, righteous men, which is what they don't have in their lives. And so, under power, we have to change the thought of something like 22s and gold and watches and things of material and reverse it back inside to knowledge and power. The real power is knowledge and wisdom. And that's what we teach. There was a man who has a book out called The Most Powerful. And it says there are words of life-altering capability. His name is Warren Hemphill. And we teach the most powerful tool is thought. The most powerful weapon is education. The most powerful ally is patience. The most powerful shield is faith. And the most powerful revenge is success. Now, under fatherhood, we teach that a father has to be three things: available, affirming, and authentic. He's got to fall within that realm. Because first of all, you can't be a father and not be in the household. Second of all, it's written in Proverbs 6 that a father is the glory of his children. So we're looking for some divine leadership. And thirdly, he's got to be affirming and authentic. He doesn't have to be anything else but who he is. Sometimes I look at my grandchildren when their father comes over. He doesn't have to do anything when he gets over here. They're like, Daddy, Daddy, Daddy. They're just so glad to see him. That is the love that we have to transfer into our children. Finally, we have to address racial oppression. There's a business out there called private prisons. Mm-hmm. And in order to fund a private prison, you need to put somebody in there. And the candidate is black, he's young, and he's in our community on our streets. But what we teach, the first thing we teach our young men is, what do you do when you get stopped by the police? And Chris Thomas will tell you, say, show your hands and show respect. We have to teach our young men how to survive out here on the streets. We're advocating for programs, service, and supports, for crisis safety, for no reject policies, for long-term connection with community supports, strength-based approaches, neighbors helping neighbors, individual services, access to work, and family focus. These are the things that the fatherhood movement has put into motion. In Alexandria, while we were at the Family Resource Learning Center, the judges called us and said, look, we tired of locking these guys up. Can y'all come down here and put a program in? Not only did we do that, but we also went to D.C. with Judge Burnett and Judge Lee and started the fathering program, the fathering court. So young men who had children could have training, education, knowledge, and jobs. This is a common sense approach to a long-time problem. Reactionary masculinity syndrome is a mindset that can be changed. It's a problem that can be dealt with, but only right people should be in the right place. You know, I've written a couple of books and about 28 white papers. While I was at the Congressional Black Caucus with my book, The Legacy of Fathers, right next to me was Beyonce Knowles' father, Matthew Knowles. Matthew Knowles wrote a book that has some very good stuff in it. He said, in order for our DNA to achieve, here's some things we need. We need passion, vision, a strong work ethic, team building, planning. We have to look at our talk-to-do ratio. I want to go over that for you, Reverend Bowie.
And Mr. Commissioner, we want to give a chance for people to ask you some questions too, okay?
Okay, I'm going to wrap this up. Talk-to-do ratio, risk-taking, learning from failure, giving back, and outside the box. That is the setup to change the outlook for our young men. But it's all in this matrix: love, connection, engagement, enlightenment brings empowerment. But before you start doing that, you better have a curriculum that's strong enough to teach and train them on what they need to know. I'm going to cut it off right here. I think this is enough to at least get you thinking the way that we're thinking. And I'll take some questions.
Thank you so much, Commissioner, for that great presentation. At this time, we'll open up for those who have questions for the Commissioner.
I have a question, Mr. Commissioner. How do the young men react how do they react when you're telling them all these things? Do they have the attitude like Nas, you can't tell me nothing? Or do they listen? How do they respond?
Well, first of all, it's not you're thinking about a didactic type of a situation. But when we engage, first of all, we have a meal, we feed them, we serve them, we lead them. And our discussions, we use an evidence-based curriculum. So we might come in and throw money on the table one day. And say, oh, we got money. See, yeah, today we're going to buy a great young black man. What does that look like? We're going to have an auction. And we'll put up different type of young men. And then we'll have a discussion about what's important about this. Why is this so important? A smart guy, a guy that is going to college, one that obeys the rules, one that looks good, one that's got girlfriends. Which one of these do you want to be and why? And let them discuss. So there's different ways that we come at them to make them do oh yeah, I never thought about that. And that's how it works.
Commissioner, this is Barbara. I have a question. First of all, I'd like to commend you for such a thorough, holistic work. So many pieces. I've read two sentences, but there were so many questions that were I could not answer, and I think that you have helped me to understand it in a much broader way. And first of all, that there is hope. I thank you for all of that. But I was wondering, what kind of jobs are you able to get? And is business very cooperative with you?
Well, we have, I failed to mention our team. My team doesn't look like the team that you might think I have. I have young dynamic leaders like a Chris Thomas, that's a young guy around about 30s. Then I have some seniors. I have a council of elders that's in that room with them young men, of men who are seasoned, that have connections to the army, to jobs, so we come in a different way. The people try to tell us, hey, you got too many people in there. No, we don't have too many people. We got what you need to make a transformation. So yes, the jobs, we help them with that. We have connections with that, but we're connected up and down. We use the mayor's office, everybody we can. Let me just tell you a short story. We had tickets to the basketball game in the mayor's suite for these guys, and they didn't have school that week, so we couldn't go. So we gave the tickets to somebody else. Lo and behold, these guys called us from the front door. They wanted to see the Wizards play. And we like, oh, Lord, we don't have any more tickets. But they were such gentlemen, and they conducted themselves in such a way that when I went down to meet them at the door, and the people found out who they were, they let them all in.
That's wonderful.
But they found out that their attitude controls their altitude. And that's what we're teaching.
Very interesting.
Commissioner Malone, this is Georgia Dunson, and I want to thank you also for just a very powerful presentation. I had a couple of short questions. First of all, I was curious about the source of your Blackology paraphrase of the 13th chapter of Corinthians. I was impressed with that. I had not heard it before. I was just curious about the author of that.
I'm gonna have Dr. Myers to share our radio program. It's on a radio show with me, and I'm impressed with this guy. I'm like, I never thought about that. Why don't we deserve our own? And he started and bona fide it and studied it and got a PhD in blackology. So I'd be happy to share that with you. I'm at www.100fathers.org.
Okay.
www.100fathers.org. If you send me a question, I'll get it and I'll send you the answer. If I can get it for you. Okay? Thank you.
And I'd like to say that the 100 Fathers are partners of Black Women for Positive Change, and we are so proud of the work that they do and how close we have worked with them. It's really a group there with those young men. It's amazing. So we appreciate you very much.
Thank you, Doctor.
And just a quick question about your, I love the evidence-based approach. And I was curious, especially as was indicated at the outset, our group is focusing on de-escalating violence. And I'm just wondering, do you actually have any statistics, any data on baselines for anything on the violence side or negative and what it was, and then how, the program that you have instituted have numbers on how those baselines have changed? Is that information? And I'm particularly interested in in metrics for violence and how effective your program is.
You are prophetic. I had called my researcher, Mr. Thomas Woodson, to give me just that information. I don't know if he's on the phone, but every place that we have gone, we started out at Woodson High School, then we went to Phelps High School, then they called us over to Ballou High School because the work that we did was just God blessed. That these young men, we were at Phelps, we crossed over 40 young men, and we do a rites of passage. I really didn't make that clear. We take them back to Africa and make them understand the Nguzu Saba and their heritage, which makes them a better person moving forward because they know who they are. I can get that for you. My researcher messed up on me. He didn't give it to me. No, he tried to, but I called him at the last minute. I'd be happy to share that with you.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just curious, Dr. Malone, about how do they learn how to deal with black women if mostly black men are teaching them?
It's not mostly black men, Reverend Reynolds. We have some strong black women. We have Jackie Roan is on the call. She's in Prince George's County. We have women who understand the needs of black men and how we have to be supported and working together. We bring a healer in our room. We bring Lynn Twyman, and we have women we bring in. And when the women come in, they try to sit up like complete gentlemen because they try to model how we would treat them. But these women are dedicated to the purposes of knowing that fathers and men need black women side by side. That's why we're with the Black Women for Positive Change, because we realize our strength is working together with our sisters to make this change happen.
And we commend you for that, too. We really do. And I also commend you for the elders, because when I was looking at Black Lives Matter, and when they started the program, they were saying, this ain't your grandma's movement, and they were cursing so much that people, I talked to Andy Young about if he was Ambassador Young, was he going to support the Black Lives Matter? And he said, no, I've been through too much for have to be disrespected and hear all this foul language thrust at me. And so there was this disconnect, just based on the kind of language that that older elders felt they were not respected, and we felt that the younger people felt they didn't need us. But that elder, but that piece is very much appreciated.
go back to when our ancestors sold us into slavery. We don't forget that. But also our children are, as Dr. Amos Wilson said, they're reincarnated from the ancestors. So we still got that same problem to deal with. But they have to have that respect for our elders, and where they can have respect for themselves. And it has to be modeled and taught, not just talked about.
Absolutely.
Dr. Malone, this is Pastor Bowie. One of the things I want to know, is your program basically local? And if so, are you looking to expand it nationally and internationally?
You know, that's why I like you, Reverend Bowie, because you are a visionary. My team are prepared. Let me give you this saying. A prophet is not without honor in his own country and amongst his own people. Now, I will say we are award-winning. We have some great recognition and resolutions, but that don't pay no bills. And what we're trying to do is to train the next generation of fatherhood leaders that can make this transformation for our young men. We have the curriculum, we have the training. You know, I didn't talk about all the movies we're in, but we have what you need to make that happen. Let us know. We're ready to travel. But,
okay. All right. Well,
yes, sir.
I definitely continue dialogue there, Commissioner Malone, because just listening to your program and its success and your passion, this is something that definitely needs to travel.
It's ready to go. That was the way we had planned it all along. And also the commission for fathers, men, and boys. That's supposed to be in each city. And, you know, these things, you know, I was listening to P. Diddy and Reverend Al Sharpton the other night. And there are 1,264 cities that are majority black that need everything we have. 1,264 in the United States. We got work to do.
Commissioner Malone, this is from Charlotte Baptist Church. If we got time for another question.
Yes, please. Another question, yes.
Thank you. If I might go back to a very interesting question about the term used, and I understand that your research is not there, and that's information you can provide, but the term used of violence methods, I think is just a hugely important one. And with that, and you know, with an opportunity to look at the research, it would be interesting to see whether one of the metrics is or could be made as how well your young men are doing in their training, and that is how their children fare with their care. I mean, I would assume it's there, but it would seem to me that an important measure, not the measure, is the results. How do their children fare as a result of how they develop and mature and become men in your program? So any of those kinds of indicators and how they're collectively would be very interesting to know and to be able to use in a lot of applications. So I too would be very interested in that kind of research that your team does.
I'm going to turn you on to Mr. Thomas Woodson. If you would email me at www.100fathers.org. But let me say this. About 3 or 4 of my guys at Ballou got a 3.2 average. And we have guys from Ballou who graduated. One, you know, I'm an Omega. He became an Omega. He went down to University of South Carolina and became an Omega and wants to come back and work with us. So we have some stories to tell, some statistics to reveal, and some successes to share. Thank God for that.
All right. I'll certainly contact you by email about that. Thank you, Commissioner Malone.
Thank you,
Commissioner Malone. This backs the code. Isn't one of your gentlemen in your program, but because of coronavirus, he was getting ready to graduate because he completed down at DC Kitchen Culinary School, if I'm correct.
Oh, is that Robert Robinson?
Yes.
He better graduate.
No, he was supposed to graduate. I got an invitation to it, but when they did the stay-at-home thing, they done shut down all the commencement exercises. But he's a participant in Commissioner Malone's program, and he's another success story.
I'm waiting for him to get his piece of paper, but I'm very, very concerned about how they're going to do that. But we've got to move forward, and they got to have experienced some success, so the next one will want to do what he's doing. So that's how we're doing. We're trying to bring some leaders. We're trying to develop leaders so that they can be their own peers with what they have learned. Hopefully, it'll happen soon. Thank you, Reverend Coles. And I appreciate the great work you're doing, too. Absolutely.
Amen.
All right. Well, if there aren't any more questions, I guess I'll turn it back over to Reverend Bowie.
Commissioner Malone, I just want to thank you for that great presentation, and thank all of you who had those intriguing questions. And also, I personally, I'm going to extend to you that we continue to talk and see how I personally, through my personal efforts and through the networks I have, how we can continue to expand your program. It's greatly needed in the city of Los Angeles. And so I want us to talk so how we can see how we can do it here in LA and how we can work together to get you out here to give a presentation, and then begin to build upon the work that you're doing, because it's so greatly needed.
I've been there several times, Reverend Bowie, but I haven't been there with you. This might be the one. You might be the reason for the season.
Okay, thank you.
That's
Well,
great.